I had a friend my last year of college that was raped by somebody that we were friends with. Ultimately, she decided to report it. When the case was handled, he was even at my graduation, and you still got to walk, and that seems just absolutely ridiculous.
Title IX states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance.
Title IX is that if you take federal money, you can't discriminate in education.
More specifically, Title IX expresses standards for the process that a school is required to undergo during a sexual assault case. Sexual assault is a widely common threat to men and women in college across America. College students across the country who are sexually assaulted must take part in a disciplinary process specific to the school they attend. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. This is the Due Process Clause. This clause is in the 5th and 14th Amendments in the Constitution and holds that victims in a criminal case have the right to due process. Title IX gives the university's jurisdiction to handle sexual assaults. This gives victims a viable way to report their assault without having to go through the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is incredibly flawed and re-traumatizing in comparison to the option to deal with it directly through the university in their Title IX office. As of right now, Title IX only offers an open-ended and basic call to action to carry out sexual assault cases.
The way in which it's working right now is very, very, very flawed.
The open-ended nature of Title IX allows universities to deal with sexual assault cases however they like. This usually results in unfair outcomes due to the lack of consistency in how these cases are handled.
It was intentionally open-ended and vague so that schools could sort of tailor their Title IX process to the particular school. But it should have probably been more specific as to some of the basics that you need to have in there. Some schools don't even have a hearing, but there has to be the basics of due process.
Some schools that more interrogates the victim and tries to get her to say it didn't happen, or that maybe she really wanted it to happen, or this is a very serious charge you're making. Are you sure you want to go through with this?
According to the legal dictionary, when the justice system fails to treat a person accused of a crime in a fair manner, this treatment process violates the person's rights to due process.
The due process implementations in the Title IX process on college campuses almost universally is fraught with problems.
And the process, I think, has some real flaws because they often aren't fair trials.
The problem with this whole due process issue is what goes on in Title IX and on college campus is an administrative process, but the administrative process has to have some tenets of due process. For example, there has to be some ability to cross-examine the accuser. Somebody, when questioning the accuser, has to be able to ask some questions, and that's not happening. And there has to be a panel, and a hearing panel, and that's not happening. And the veracity of the accuser has to be determined by somebody other than the Title IX officer whose job it is to find that this actually happened without any evidence or proof.
I think universities are ill-equipped to handle these issues. I have seen many cases where universities make a determination that they can't decide who's telling the truth, and therefore they reach no determination. And that is very unfortunate on college campuses. If I had to say, I think that there's more of a presumption favoring accused perpetrators than there is people who have been victimized by harassment, because schools essentially throw up their hands and say, it's a he said, she said, both parties were drunk, we can't decide who's telling the truth.
Universities often have to comprehend competing verbal accounts, lack of witnesses, little or no physical evidence, impaired judgments, and unclear memories due to alcohol or drug use. This results in cases being inconclusive. Either the accuser does not receive punishment, or the accused is separated from the accuser, suspended, and sometimes expelled. However, properly executed due process usually strives to avoid inconclusive results.
you often will have institutions that are a little bit too sympathetic to the perpetrator, a little too hesitant to expel. There's sort of an unwritten incentive to not deal with it because they want to make sure that their college is the college that is viewed as a safe place for everyone to go, and it'll be the best 4 years of your lives. And sadly, colleges are not safe places.
The side of the accused feels that it does need to be safe for victims, but it needs to be safe for innocent boys as well. There are blurred lines of consent, misdemeanors, and false accusations which ultimately lead to permanent consequences. When boys with misdemeanors are applying for anything, sexual assault will be marked on their record, meaning they will be impacted for the rest of their life.
But we're also throwing out innocent kids and forever destroying their lives.
If they're found responsible and they're suspended or they're kicked out, that affects them forever.
And before you take the step of throwing a student out of college, expelling them or suspending them and having on their transcript forever they were expelled for sexual assault, which means they're not getting into another college and they're not getting into graduate school and they're probably not getting a job, you'd like to have some evidence that this actually happened. That's the problem.
Title IX needs to be revised to include a proper due process as a call to action for universities. There needs to be a process for the schools to follow to avoid inconclusive outcomes and unfair results or punishments, all while avoiding the involvement of the justice system for victims who face the possibility of re-traumatization.
This is about ensuring students have a safe environment on campus.
Universities must be held accountable